Hey everybody, Omar here, your Edge of South Africa guy, and I am back with another fun-filled video for you. And today I've got a very special collaboration piece. This is a slip joint. One-of-a-kind, handmade slip joint made by South African knife maker J.D. Ellis and knife maker Jason Guthrie. Now, this knife is based off of Jason Guthrie's Ranger model. Sort of a really special knife. So the way I got this was kind of a big surprise. I was just on Instagram, and then J.D. Ellis kind of texted me, and he said, "Hey, I got this knife for you. I just made it. And I made it just for you." It's a collaboration between myself and Jason Guthrie. He gave me permission to use his Ranger model as inspiration for this piece. So let's just give a quick look, and then I'll talk about it some more. So what we have here is a slip joint knife, and I'm going to explain what's on it. So here's the certificate of authenticity. There's J.D. Ellis himself, and it's Jason Guthrie and J.D. Ellis together. The blade is Dama steel. We've got a RWL 34 steel, which is really good steel. In fact, this knife is as sharp as hell. It's made of Japanese maple burl and birchwood burl. We've got titanium and G10 titanium pivot, and then the G10 pivot collars. This is the certificate of authenticity. There's a picture of J.D. Ellis right there. And you also get with this knife a little sort of wiping cloth with his name on it. So again, the way this happened was just by accident. I happened to be on Instagram, and J.D. Ellis, who I consider a friend, he was just out of the blue. He just contacted me and said, "Hey, I got this really great knife. I know you and I were talking about doing another slip joint, or getting another slip joint, so I made this one for you." Basically, Jason Guthrie gave me permission to use his Ranger model flipper knife. I turned it into a slippy, and this is it. So it's a really great looking piece. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware of slip joints or how they work, but in South Africa, the slip joint is really the traditional choice of cutting blade. This knife was way before they ever came out with flippers and front flippers and ball bearings and all of that. So if you're not familiar with slip joints, this is the traditional cutting tool for a lot of people in South Africa. And for some who enjoy the traditional knife, this may be the one that most people would choose. I don't necessarily choose this as my favorite, but I am a fan of all kinds of cutting knives, and I do like the traditional knife as well. So the slip joint basically works this way. There's a spring, which is the entire back end of the knife, which is this right here. It's a spring and really hard spring. So the way it works is it's a two-handed opener. So let me show you right off the bat before I continue. So the way you open the knife is you open it up with two hands. There's a heavy spring, and if you take a look at this, you'll see that the top back bar here starts to rise, and that's how you get the knife to kind of lock into place. This is called the half stop. And then to open it all the way, you just simply continue that same motion all the way up till it ends. And then once again, what's amazing about the slip joint is that the back end of the knife goes flush again. So if you take a look at this, it's closed and it's completely flush. And then you open it, and then it starts to rise. You see that? And then there's the half stop. And then once it gets to the half stop, before it gets to the half stop, it starts to rise a little bit, and then when it's in this relaxed position, it goes flush. Then when you open it the second time, it starts to rise again, and then it goes flush. Now that action is called the walk and talk. Now, the way you're supposed to open and close these knives, most people like to do it like this, right? And then they'll just close it that way, which is fine. That's called the walk and talk. What's amazing about this knife and most slip joints is that the back bar spring is so strong. It will not close on your hand. I mean, even if I were to sort of take my thumb and close it, you notice it doesn't close all the way and slam on my hand. Instead, it stops at the half point. That's a really good slip joint right there. And then you close it, and they recommend that you close it completely with the two hand and then close it softly. But there's nothing wrong with simply closing it, you know, the way most people like to do it, which is like that, where you hear the sound. I mean, as far as I understand, it's perfectly safe to do that. But then again, you know, slip joint knife makers never say it's better to not do that either, so I'm not sure. So you take a look at the knife. We've got a beautiful damascene steel blade, maple burl, maple, what is it, maple, take a look at that again. Yeah, we've got Japanese maple burl and birch wood burl. I asked basically for a blue knife, and that's basically what he gave me. This case does not come with the knife. I wasn't even really disappointed that it did not come with the case of any kind. I was fine with that, only because the price that I paid for this knife was ridiculous. He didn't have to give me the price that he gave me on this collaborative piece, because it is a one-of-a-kind, handmade. I just basically took it. When I saw it, I said, you got to send it to me, because I don't know if, you know, I'll ever come across another deal like this again, and I simply just had to have it. So let's just get into the size comparisons. I don't have the specs on this knife, so the best I can do is just some size comparisons. I'm going to guess that the blade on this knife is about 3.3 inches in length. The entire handle of the knife is probably right around 7.9 or 8 inches in total length. Let's do some size comparisons just so you guys can see. Here it is up against the ZT0562. You guys know this knife pretty well. Now, as you can see, it's a little bit smaller than the ZT0562, which makes me say that's why it's a 3.3 or 3.4 inch blade. And then here we have it up against the Spyderco Sage, which is actually smaller, right? And then we have the ZT0900, which is an even smaller knife than the Spyderco Sage. Okay. Give you a little better idea of how much bigger it is. What else have I got in here? Oh, I got the EO Jumbo 2. Yeah, you can see this knife is gigantic compared to the Slipjoint. That's like a 3.7 inch blade versus a 3.3. So it's a much, much larger knife. And, you know, again, one of the things I like to do, let's see what else I got in here. Oh, how about the Kershaw Livewire? There's a recent knife. You got to do it up against that, because I believe it's about the same exact size. Yeah, see. So it is the same exact size as a Kershaw Livewire. So it's 3.3 for sure. And so just to finalize the size comparisons, let's go ahead and do, actually that might not be best. Let's do large knife. All right, large knife. We have the medium knife, which is the actual slip joint itself, and then a small we'll put up against a ZT. So you can see that, you know, that the knife falls between a large knife and a small knife. So the slip joint's actually a medium to large knife in size. So, like I said, I mean, the traditional slip joint may not be for everybody. It's basically considered more of an art piece, more than, say, an actual using knife. But there's nothing wrong with being able to use this as an everyday carry, provided that you're not that you're basically, provided that you're actually comfortable just closing and opening the knife with two hands. That's probably one of the main reasons why a lot of people don't like slip joints, strictly because there's a little bit more thinking involved in a slip joint. You have to use two hands to open and close the knife. It's not something everybody wants to do, and if you're like a flipper fan like myself, you're going to want to open and close the knife with with one hand, and then sort of swipe your hand to close the blade. In many cases, your hand will never even touch the blade. Unfortunately, with a slip joint like this, that's not the case. I mean, it does require a little bit more thinking when you're opening for safety, opening and closing a knife for safety. It could be something, like I said, it's not something for everybody. But, if you're in a hurry and you need to cut something with it, this may not be the knife for choice. However, in South Africa, where this knife hails from, this is the type of knife that most people like to use. The traditionalists, anyway. For that reason, slip joints are in my collection, and yeah, I use them. The steel on this is super duper sharp. I'm only sorry I don't have any cutting paper to show you, but this thing cuts like crazy. It's RWL 34 Dama steel on it. The pattern is really very pretty. We've got these beautiful custom gold looking pivots. So this knife is completely custom, so unlike a regular production folder, there's no way you're going to be able to take this apart. But then again, a really good custom knife maker, he's going to make sure that the knife is absolutely perfect before it goes out to you. That way you don't have to worry about it failing on you or having to worry about taking it apart or anything. It's just an absolute gorgeous, gorgeous knife. Probably one of the few things about a slip joint is that the backspacer is the spring itself. So in many cases, you won't have any artwork on that part of the knife itself. You're just going to have to accept that. However, everything else on the knife just looks fantastic. And I think there's something to be said about the traditional knife. The slip joint is meant to be carried in your pocket rather than outside of your pocket, which is why there's no pocket clip. Because with the flipper knife, it's sort of a drawing concept where you draw the knife out of your pocket. Well, why am I even saying that? Basically, for the regular flipper knife, basically you want to be able to just flip it open, close the knife with one hand, and then you can simply put the knife in your pocket with the back clip, with the pocket clip sticking out. That way you can draw the knife, cut with it, and put it immediately back in your pocket when you're done. The fact that the slip joint does not operate the same way, there's no real reason to have a pocket clip on a slip joint. So this knife, basically you open it, close it, two hands, and it just goes directly right into your pocket. And you're not really going to necessarily be ready for action, but then again, this is supposed to be used for everyday heavy-duty tasks. This is definitely not a knife you're going to be using for self-defense for that particular reason. So, I mean, with the slip joint, you're just going to want to appreciate the art and how beautiful it is, appreciate the walk and talk. It's a completely different set of criteria that you're looking at when you're getting one of these types of knives. It's just not for everybody. But that being said, I mean, I can't say that I don't love this piece. The colors are just absolutely brilliant. The fact that the knife was not made with any machines at all. He basically hand cut the frame, hand cut the handles, smoothed everything out completely by hand. The entire process to make this knife takes roughly 2 days, which is why one of a kind has to be what it is. I mean, just the amount of time that it takes to make these knives. When knife makers do knives of the same type in succession, Believe it or not, the knife is easy to assemble, put together. That way, that way they can make up to 2, 3, 4, 5 knives at a time in good time. But with a one-of-a-kind handmade piece, that's part of the attraction of owning a one-of-a-kind, is that it was so complex to put the knife together that this is going to be the only one in existence. And then the knife maker basically moves on to another handmade knife again. And that is, one of the main reasons why prices for these knives escalate. So, when you're ready for customs, you're going to want to be able to really appreciate all the work that it went into making this knife. For example, if we take a look at a lot of the details on this knife, just take a look at it. I know you can't really see it, but if you take a look at the back of this knife, there's 10 liners in here with 10 different colors. So he basically had to shape 10 different liners on both sides of the knife to create this colored effect. So we've got red, white, blue, black, red, white, blue, black. I think there's, what other colors are in here? Yeah, I mean, you just have to see all the complexity. And then once he got all the layers of the G10 and titanium in there, he would have to smooth everything out by hand so everything is exactly the same size. You don't want one side of the scale to be jutting out a little bit more than the other side. It has to be completely even. Now, you have to appreciate the fact that the knife maker was doing this by eye. There's no machine or anything really to help assist him in creating this knife. The entire thing was done by hand. So the key to making a knife made by hand is to make it look like it was made by machine, even though it was really made by hand. And to get this kind of smooth edges on this piece, to get it to be that smooth overall with no rough edges, that takes a lot of concentration, a lot of focus, and a lot of freaking sweat and hard work. And if you are not if you're not appreciating that much of what the knife maker does, then to be honest with you, I don't really believe getting a custom knife is for you. Simple things like the walk and talk. I mean, I do love the fact that I can actually close this knife with my thumb, and it's not going to close on my hand, on any of my fingers, and then slam it shut. Nice. The sound of that it makes, absolutely stunning. Just a stunning knife. J.D. Ellis and Jason Guthrie. If you want to check out the actual knife that this was modeled after, just go ahead and Google Jason Guthrie. Yeah, go ahead and Google Jason Guthrie Ranger model, and you'll see the knife looks exactly like, the shape of it looks exactly like this. So J.D. Ellis had to get permission from Jason Guthrie to use that knife as a model for this one, which is why I'm going to say that you'll probably never see another one like this ever again. So, something to think about. I'm not used to having a slip joint, so I keep looking for the liner lock, and it's not there, and I keep forgetting I gotta close it like this. But, that's part of the art. Really great work from J.D. Ellis. This is my second slip joint from him. I don't doubt that I'm going to get a third one from him in some fashion later on down the line. I just need to get one because this one's really stunning. It really is. I absolutely love this piece. So if you're a traditionalist or you're a lover of all kinds of knives and you're a traditionalist by heart, you probably wouldn't mind owning one of these or getting the slip joint by J.D. Ellis. I definitely suggest you take a look at his Instagram page. I believe his books are closed for the moment, but he is always open for discussion. and to get his books filled up again once his books do open up. So if you want to get one from him, definitely check out his Instagram page, JD Ellis Knives, on Instagram. You could check out all of his other models. Keep in mind, this model will not be on his Instagram page, so you're going to have to pick one of the ones on his Instagram page. I don't even remember any of the names of his knives. You're going to want to check that out on his website. I just don't know all the names of the model knives that he's got. So J.D. Ellis, Jason Guthrie, Slipjoint collaboration. Definitely check out J.D. Ellis Knives and get yourself a Slipjoint. I guarantee, even though you won't be getting the same model, the quality of the work will be just as precise as this one. You will not be disappointed at all. So that's it for this video. This is Omar, your Edge of South Africa guy, signing off with J.D. Ellis, Jason Guthrie, collaboration Slipjoint. You guys have a great and fantastic Saturday afternoon. I definitely am. I'm going to be back in a few minutes with another knife, another folder for you. So thank you so much for watching, and you guys have a nice and fantastic and wonderful day.